Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yep. Now we also recording. Hello, Shoes here, Linton. And what I want to do is I want to make a video before it ever comes out. I have a criminal record. I do, and it's not against women or children. It's not against women or children, and I have all of it here, and it is very thick, as you can see. Um, but first, before we get into that, um, I want to talk about my upbringing. I want to talk about myself as a young child and what I went through as a kid, and a bit about my family and my birth family. So, I was born in a town called Gosford in New South Wales, um, in Australia, and it's basically a hillbilly village. We went to school. We grew up learning like there was like the Old Australia Park or whatever and stuff. And I grew up in a town called Wyoming. As you can see, it's a human settlement, um, as said by in New South Wales. I went to Wyoming Public School. So I had like a really rough upbringing. When I was born, my mother, my birth mother, already had a child, my older sister, and they lived in like a bus. My mother was like broadly traumatized by the death of her brother due to a heroin overdose or something around those lines. Um, and she was also a heroin user herself. So obviously, I'm not putting any disclaimer. I guess I'll put that in the description. But yeah, so they lived in a bus for however many years. Now, long story short, is that's not technically my biological father. I found out years later. We'll get to that later. But eventually, there was domestic violence within the family. My mother left that. She moved into a house in Wyoming, which is that town there. I live. I'm not going to show where I live, but I went to Wyoming Public School. So mind you, all of this. I was about 3 years old when I moved into this house, give or take. I had a younger brother. He was about one, and an older sister at that time. My older sister, different father. Um, like in Australia, like when you have kids, you get like a payment for it, and like it's like 2,500 a fortnight, and then an extra 1,500 a fortnight AUD for like many years. Back then, it was like 11, and then they changed it to 9, and then they made all these other requirements and stuff like this. And you know, my birth mother just kept pumping them out. So eventually, she ended up having another child. I had a really rough upbringing, right? Like, I was a thrown outside to play kid. I lived in a ghetto. Um, and like it wasn't like there was like a challenge going outside, but there was like lots of bullying, right? Like it wasn't the ideal place, but I found sanctity in like playing, video games and stuff like this. People in the street, we kind of rotated from that. Like when you live in like a housing commission, a lot of people, they come and they go, so you make a lot of friends, but then they might like have kids and move to another place or whatever. It wasn't that I was like deprived much when I was a kid, but I was deprived a lot from Wyoming Public School because of the things that were happening at home. They weren't willing to accept fault. And it was the basic stuff, like, well, look, he's got a lot going on at home. We don't want this to affect the test at the school. So we'll put him in this other class at the moment. It's basic stuff like that, right? And like the worst thing that happened to me, like realistically, apart from like the average like beating and stuff like that, was when I was 9. I went to Pokemon 2000. I loved Pokemon, and I went to Pokemon 2000. My mother took me. She got tickets, however, and she tried to abandon me there. It was like the worst thing, right? Worst thing. I was claimed to be a bad kid, but like there's no bad kids. Like there's just like bad parents, right? And my mother wasn't a great daughter. Her mother wasn't really a great. She didn't have like that much of a success rate, but I guess it's very hard when you have lots of children. Um, but yeah, so she tried to abandon me, but then she said to me, all right, wait here. So I waited there. She's obviously probably assumed I was going to wander off or whatever. But look, I remember the place was like full, almost closing. It was like kind of late. And I was with like the janitor bloke. He never touched me or nothing. right? Just saying. But yeah, I'm just waiting for a while, and eventually my birth mother turned up, and she's like, "Oh, I finally found you." And I ended up saying, "Oh, I was here the entire time. You told me to wait here. I've been waiting here." And she didn't say nothing to me on the train ride home. When I got home, I got a whooping, um, big whooping. So yeah, that was basically it. 11, 10, 12 years old. It seemed like there was like a big push from mother to try and get me into care. Eventually, I ended up going into care when I was 12 years old, right? Now, I lived in the first place that I lived in. Police basically just come and they take you away, right? Um, Now, I felt like at this time I was getting like put into accommodation and like helped like relatively soon. Like, sure, things take a couple of hours. You got to sit in the police station or the doc's office or whatever for a couple of hours. Department of Community Services, DHS, whatever it is, state government stuff. So I was a state ward, which means that I was owned by the state minister to be responsible for. Right. And so basically, I got convinced by this other guy to run away. And so we ran away, like first night being there. We went on a bit of a hiatus, good adventure. Eventually they found us. They put me in another place. And it was Christmas Day. It was like a couple of days before Christmas. It was Christmas Day. I lived there like 3 nights. And I was trying to make like a little sparkler show in foil, right? And like whatever ended up happening anyway, the staff, they like ended up beating me up, taking the lighter off me, and yeah, kicking me out, taking me back and saying I was trying to make a bomb, which is like full crazy, mind you, full absurd. Which made things kind of difficult to find a place to live as a child, but they still managed to be able to put me into accommodation. So eventually I moved in with a foster family, and I moved in with that foster family, and I lived with that foster family in a town called Erina. Not Erina, Narara, sorry. Yep, Narara. And when I lived there, it was close to the skate park, and I'd run away, I'd go to the skate park. I used to be pretty good at skating before I got older. As I didn't grow taller and more slimmer, got a bit more harder to kind of maneuver a board. I kind of stayed away from it a little bit. I did some skating years later in a town out in Tukli, Tugra, Wyong. Look, we'll bring up the map in a bit more later anyway. So yeah, like I lived in this place. I'm not going to say that I was like a rough kid, but I kept contesting that I wanted to go to school. It was very important to me. And then, ended up, because I kept going to the skate park and they would always drive down and have to pick me up because I would never really tell them that I was going because like, I was always there, or I stayed there too late or something, and they get pissed off and come and pick me up. And yeah, he threw a sweet potato at me and it hit me in the side of the face, and I had like a big bruise here. And yeah, I kept going, disappearing, running away back to the skate park, and they ended up saying, "Oh, he's running away all the time." And then they come to me and they're like, "Why are you running away?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't really like it there. He hit me in the face with a sweet potato." And I just like going down the skate park, but they don't want me to go down there. Like I remember going on a 4-hour road trip where they were only allowed to like play music that was G-rated, and I wanted to play Rammstein and stuff, but they played this one CD by the guy that goes, "What's the matter, you? Hey," and I fucking hate that song to the day like that I live here. So look, eventually then that ended up being months later, right? Like I ended up moving out of this place. That ended up being months later, and I moved into a place in Wyong in Watanabe. So I'm about 13, 14 years old, almost 13, almost 14 from this bracket. I lived there for about 12 months. And it started off being like relatively good accommodation. And then I witnessed like horrible things that they were doing to the people in there. Like eventually down the line, they weren't feeding people, they weren't putting people into school, all this stuff. Now, this was back before as well. Like there was social media and internet and recordings and all these things. So realistically, people can just say whatever they wanted about people. So like, oh, they're a problem child or whatever if they're too much to handle because they might need like whatever more funding or something, right? I was always a very, very smart kid. I liked playing music. I liked skating, stuff like that. So Wyong was a pretty good area because there was a youth center, had a little skate park out the front, little gym in there, would play football and that. That stuff was fun. But yeah, so I witnessed a bunch of stuff that didn't happen in there. I didn't report it personally. Other people reported it. They asked for a bunch of witnesses. I told the truth. It closed down like 8 youth centers or something. Now, they were called Wyong Youth Services in Wyong, New South Wales. Now, I'm having no problem. I'm going to say first names. and organization names are throughout this. I've got no fault. So yeah, look, eventually they got closed down in 2009 or something. Um, Now, sure, I had a couple of cases before that, but we will go through it. So they closed down in 2009, but I lived at this place at around 2006, 5, 6, right? So this was in Wyong. So eventually, after that, they kind of kicked me out of the Central Coast, right? Department of Community Services. They tried me with Life Without Barriers. They didn't want me. They put me into some farm place thing. It was pretty fun. I got to do school and that. Then when we were done, he would cook like steaks and stuff. It was really nice. But like me personally, I never really got along with male staff, just in general. So anyway, I ended up moving to Sydney, and getting into a bit of trouble, and we're going to kind of get into the criminal record, and stuff like that now. So I'd always kind of gone back and forward from Sydney every time I ran away. But when I stayed in Wyong, I kind of didn't move back down. So after all of this period, basically with Department of Community Services, what had basically happened was I'd go in the office, I would ask for support, they wouldn't help me. So after 2008 or so, I'd go into the office, I'd sit there all day. They say they couldn't help me. They wouldn't even give me $5 for food. Now, this was before there was a phone system. Long story short, before we get into the criminal record stuff, I turned 16, and I hadn't been to juvie yet. And I moved into a place called Don Bosco House in Marrickville. Very good place. They helped me. They helped me get onto Centrelink. They helped me get into school with Father Chris Riley, with Youth Off the Streets. And I ended up going there and doing my Year 10 certificate. Now, sure, there was a little bit of negatives through it. Yeah, okay, I had $1,000 in train fines, and she was like, sure, the Catholic organization, they did me pretty good, but they also tried to do things wrong. Like, she tried to get me to claim bankruptcy on $1,000 fines, which ultimately probably would have ruined my life. If you have that on your record as a child. I passed my year 10. I went into another school in year 11. I went to Bradfield Senior College, and basically same thing that I'd kind of experienced as well with Erina High School when I was at the age of 12, when all of this when I got put into care, they like taxied me to the school sometimes. But now that I'm a problem child, they want nothing to do with me, and they find excuse and they get rid of you, right? So yeah, basically, same kind of scenario with Bradfield and Erina High School. Government schools not willing to take responsibility and help. You get bullied and you fight back, and people play the victim because you're an easy target, like stuff like that. So, so all these refuges get shut down. Cost them a lot of money, right? Would have cost them a lot of money. And probably cost them millions of dollars. Probably state government funding, taxes, all that. And this is when I just start getting like fricked in the butt, right? So I lived in a short-term foster placement, and the kid there was like, oh, hey, like, I've got to go to my mum's place and pick up some stuff. It turns out that a neighbor called the police, and he wasn't supposed to be there or something. I got charged with aggravated break and enter. It was my first offense. This is the New South Wales one. I was going to start covering up the names and stuff first, but my last name's Taylor. My middle name's John. I go by Davidson because that's what's on my license. One day I'm going to legally change it to Stone, something like that. So yeah, aggravated break and enter. I got given 150 hours community service at the Parramatta Children's Court, right? That's actually quite a serious offense. But the only reason it can be aggravated because someone's in the house, or it can be aggravated because you're in a group of 2 or more, right? Then I appealed it because I'm trying to tell him, I'm like, I thought that I could be here, right? Like, my friend that I was with said that he could go here. And I was doing 150 hours community service at Maitland Jail. I did it like twice before. They said, you don't have to be here. You got an appeal or whatever. The appeal was dismissed. And then there was like eventually, they couldn't find me or something. And then, yeah, some people that are with, robbed this dude, and they stole his phone, and I was like the only person that got arrested out of all of that. I was the only person in that police station anyway. And then yeah, I got a fail to appear, which was like a probation. Um, and yeah, so these ones here I like tried to fight, right, for like a while. Um, but I was here in the group, not gonna lie. There was three of us. One dude pushed the other dude over, and I grabbed the dude, and the other dude said, "Give us your shit," and then he handed it over. There was no violence apart from that. He gave us his shit. We ran off. Yeah, sorry, Hills. Anyway, they were relatively good police, kind of police back then, and I'm gonna say that I deserve them, but that one, but I don't deserve obviously this one. This was in 2007, right? So I tried to fight that one. I got an appeal in. I had the robbery in company or whatever. Bail. I failed to appear or something. Probably more than likely. So I went before the court. I got a breach of bail, right? Children's court again, breach of bail, and now obviously what happens? I got released. I was living in a place called Oasis Youth Center at the time. It's actually a pretty good place. Now before this I had cautions for like driving and stuff, but like it wasn't bad, right? So now this possess one, that was just for weed, and what would happen was there was a big group of us, and we were smoking in the stairs at the Surrey Hills Flats in New South Wales in the Housing Commission, and there was like its tiniest little bud, right? Tiniest little tiny bud, but it was on like a piece of paper that was chopped up with like 4 or 5 smokable cones, and they were for all of us, and I hadn't had any yet. It was like 2 away from me, but yeah, the police come up, and for some reason they choose to pin me for it out of everybody, because I had the bag on my lap because I chopped up, right? So they took the entire thing, and it was like a couple of pieces of paper like this, quite thick. They weighed the entire thing on a piece of paper. It ended up being like 4 grams or something like that, when it was only realistically 0.3, at max 0.4. And yeah, so eventually then I didn't appear again. And the bench was a non-conviction because there was misunderstandings and stuff. So they took it back to court, right? Drugs to be destroyed. And when they took me to the court, they gave me bail again. So, and then all of this was kind of together at the time, right? So this is the same thing. So they hit me with, for one little thing, for one little bud, they hit me with one, right? And then they hit me with another one. They double jeopardied me the next day. Like he just woke up feeling like, fuck this guy, and hit me with it again. But not twice, 3 times, right? So eventually then I get down to Newcastle, and there was a warrant that was issued by the Woy Woys Children's Court for all of this. Now, I was in custody at this time. I got released on that day. Now, eventually when I got out, there was they issued more warrants on me, right? I was doing nothing wrong. They issued more warrants on me. 3 warrants, right? So they issued 3 warrants on me, okay? And for the appeal, right? Okay. No, actually, no, this wasn't for the appeal yet. Yeah, they issued all these warrants on me for no reason, right? I was homeless at the time. I was living in Gosford. I was living in the Wyoming. I'll show you guys in a minute. I was living in the change rooms there. We'd busted the lock off and changed the locks. And yeah, they were in the car. So, but I did have tools for work in them, and they didn't want to hear it. I had a small pair of bolt cutters in there at worst. Sure, they got me for breaking into implements, right? Now, we broke into one house, okay? I broke into one house with a couple of friends. The plan was to just steal food. The side door was open. We broke in the house, and we stole food, and then we went and sold the garage. and I flopped the thing down and a key fell down and we stole the car. And yeah, I got into a car chase. But yeah, they didn't want to hear the implement stuff. They said that I was breaking into houses like with those stuff wasn't. But yeah, never licensed person. I got into a car chase. They beat me up too, the police kind of bad that day. And then I admitted to the one break and enter, right? But but they hit me with every single fucking one in the area at the time. Like they hit me with every single break and enter in the town, right? And double jeopardy charged me, right? Double jeopardy charged me, hit me with break and enter charges that I didn't even do. Double jeopardy charged me again, hit me with more break and enters and more charges, right? All again, triple jeopardy, right? Double jeopardy again, more break and enters. And they just kept adding to them. They kept adding to them. And then, right, I get out. They tell me when I'm in juvie, I'm in Frank Baxter Juvie Center, and I'm telling them what I did, what the truth was. Okay, I had tools for work in there. I used to help my fucking mother's ex-boyfriend pick up metal at Gosford. They were building buildings there, and I'd go in there and help them pick them up. And then other people in there would give me jobs, like twisting wire and shit. One day after they stopped dating, I walked in there and said, give me some job. I'd get 60, 50 bucks, and I'd go buy a packet of smokes or whatever, some food and shit, right? So yeah, and then, okay, this is the only other one here. So sure, there was this guy that apparently SA'd this dude's girlfriend. And yeah, I got a little mad and I beat him up. So like, okay, I did that. That's fine. I pled guilty to that. I felt really bad. It wasn't like super bad. Like he wasn't bleeding or anything. But they forced me to plead guilty everything. And they were like, if you plead guilty, you'll go home. Because docs aren't willing to help you. So if you plead not guilty today, you won't get bail because you got nowhere to live. So you'll have to stay in here for 16 months. And I was getting like bullied by the staff and encouraged by the staff there to bully me. And they would lock me up in 24-hour, 12-hour confinements where during the day you couldn't get a mattress. And stuff like this, which I start to think is all kind of related, right? All of this, the closing down the refuges, all of that stuff, right? So yeah, look, I beat that guy up. Now he was older than this chick. She was only like 14. That's the honest truth. But it turned out that she was with this other dude. His name was Warren. And yeah, he was with this other dude named Warren, not with that guy, Caleb. And she blamed it on that guy. Unfortunately, I paid the price for that one. I'm definitely guilty, and I do feel bad for attacking that guy. Yeah. So they hit me with all the stuff again. Now this one here, the damage to property and stuff like this, all of this stuff I got like instigated and like locked out of a house. And this was the assault that I did to the guy. So all of the last 5 pages were one charge that turned into how many pages as like total bullshit, right? And I think that is tied together because like I shut down all the youth centers and all of that and all of that stuff and whatever. So I'm fucking shaken, by the way. You can see it in the camera because I want to be as honest as I can. 100% honesty, actually. 100% honesty. So I had this, and eventually they told me I plead guilty to everything else. And I go home today. I was told that by the juvenile detention center. I was told that by the legal aid. I was told that by the detectives that came to Frank Baxter and talked to me. And I did so. And then they let me get bail on this, right? That was the beating up Caleb, right? So I get out, and then I was living in a place, and they closed the door, and the door hit on the freaking umbrella stand, right? That was on their side and fell. It was like a kind of big, like waist high type of deal, right? And it fell and it hit the window on their side, and the glass broke out. And they turned around and said, I did it. And they got a decent insurance claim for that. So that damage to property, which is really only a fine, it should have just been, all right, you go pay the glass. Give us $100. I'm getting like $550 every 2 weeks. That could have been possible. It didn't. They framed me for stolen freaking cards, and then they said that I had goods in custody that were suspected of being stolen. They tried to say that I stole their credit card as well, which was not true. And then I got put on. They hit me with this, the damage to property. They hit me with the failed to appear because they charged me in my absence, and they apparently attempted to try to contact me, and they couldn't contact me. Well, I'm like homeless. Like, I remember when I got released from juvenile detention at that time. Doc still, mind you, I'm 17 years old now. Almost, I'm 17 in like 17, 2 months. It was like March-ish, and I get out. And this youth worker, the Samoan fella, gave me a fucking $5 to go get a feed, and it felt really good. And yeah, I used to sit in docks all day looking for somewhere to live. All of those years, they never helped me, never find me somewhere. So yeah, they got me with the damaged property. They hit me with the fail to appear. They said that I stole a credit card that I didn't do. Right, I didn't do it. They said that I did. I didn't do it. And then they hit me again at Woi Woi, right? With the fail to appear, damage to property, goods in personal custody. It got dismissed, but they gave me a control order because I time served, right? 7 weeks and 2 days. That's how long I spent in juvie, right? They let me go. She was a very nice judge. I remember meeting her years later. She was so nice. She was always very kind, polite, and she kind of understood maybe what people were going through because she'd grown up there her entire life, sort of thing. So eventually, then they hit me with all of these more break and enters again. So they hit me with another break and enter. Apparently, it just came up, and there was they told me if I plead guilty, I go home. So I got locked up again. Same thing, homeless again. I'm homeless on the street. They pick me up. They run my name. Turns out there's a warrant. I get locked up again, right? And, the worst thing I was like doing, apart from being like influenced by the wrong people and sure, at that time, probably having a cone or two every now and then when it was possible, and stealing from stores, and I beat that guy up. I wish I didn't beat that guy up, but, I fucked up. That's it. That's all I'm going to say about that. Like, the worst thing I'll do is steal food, right? I'd break into the person's house and I stole food. That's it. Stole the car. Car didn't crash. Nothing like that. So then I got into an altercation with a freaking person, and it was just an argument, but they turned around and said I hit them, which I didn't, which is, they got me for common assault, which someone says if I try and hit them, if I hit them, it's not common assault then. The common assault is like if I push them or something around those lines. So they just hit me with a little charge, and they hit me and said it was DV because we lived in the house together that we were in. I'd only been there for 10 minutes because the bloke invited me over so I could have a shower, and the guy was just a full freaking schizo. Like, I felt like I'd been like framed. You know what I mean? Like I knew this guy Doug, and I knew him from Oasis, and I was up at Surrey Hills one day, and he was like, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm singing for a shower, and he was like, yeah, come to mine, have a shower, and yeah, that was fucked. And then they hit me for 2 of them, right? So double jeopardied me, right? double jeoparded me for no reason. And then they went to the Woy Woy's court. It got failed to appear. And they hit me with another one, right, for the same thing. So I'm like, there's double jeopardy, double jeopardy, double jeopardy. Like, you can't, like, this is fricked, man. And then anyway, yeah, they issued a warrant at Gosford. Of course, Gosford, right, where I'm from. Like, why is it gone to Woy Woy and then to Gosford, right? What's the problem here, right? So yeah, they executed a bunch of warrants, and then eventually they just decided to sentence me at Burwood for some reason, in 2016, mind you. So the last time that went to court was 2009, right? And now the reason why that is because I was so sick and tired of them harassing me, right? I left to Melbourne, right? I left to Tasmania first. I left to Melbourne, and they just kept freaking with me in my absence. Like, it just kept going on, going on, going on. So eventually then they got me possession of prohibited weapon in 2016. I used to do nunchuck training after running in the morning. I'm actually pretty damn good. I had a small pair. They weren't even really a pair. They were just like really more or less a mock type of a weight distributor that you kind of use for like wrist exercises, right? It's like a smaller chain. You just kind of go like this and it stretches the wrist, right? And you might do these ones or this ones or whatever like that, right? And yeah, they hit me with that. I got a fine for it. That's normal, right? That one I accept. That's fine, right? Like that, sure. But then, 2017. So when did these crimes happen? Right? Let's go back and we see when the crimes happened at 2008, right? And then they hit me with them. So like I've just been in another state, and then they just basically hit me with in 2017, right? They hit me with the destroyed property thing, and I told them the card wasn't mine. And then they did it anyway. And then yeah, they for some reason it ends up in Fairfield. When I was living around that area at that time. So like, mind you, right, it's all the same things that they've just been bringing back up for years to bring me back to court over and over and over again. That 98% I haven't done, right? And which could have been solved with realistically simple phone calls, or in my absence, or in various other ways, right? That could have been done in a legal system. I'm getting the worst end so far of all of this stuff, and their majority, 90%, are simple mistakes of being misled or at the wrong place at the wrong time, that I feel because of my honesty and closing down that refuge pissed off the entire Central Coast. And docs knew about it, and they tried to get me out, but they just keep bringing me back no matter what I do. No matter what I do, no matter where I go, years later, they just bring me back. So, and yeah, and then eventually, now this here, same thing, kind of things. We'll talk about all of this stuff in a minute, but we'll talk about this one first. Okay, there was a while where I was, for a while, I got prescribed methylphenidate hydrochloride, and I was providing it to the students that I went to uni with, and I got caught with them in my car, and I wasn't prescribed to them at the time, and they were really pissed off about it. Sure, I got charged with it, but I got a Section 10A. I was taking them at the time. I was working 2 jobs within IT, and it was one of those things that I just do to kind of pick me up in the afternoon. And I was prescribed them initially, but I ended up having like not taking them every day, right? But I would still go see the psychiatrist and pick them up. I ended up with a few boxes, and then yeah, exam season come around. They hit me with that, boom. Now, I was in a relationship that had an argument. It was not that bad of an argument, but it ended up on civil terms, right? Now, there might be a lot of people who probably know somewhat of this story, but it was a small argument. My ex-partner is a good person. She did well, but she was obviously likely coerced by police or threatened or her something around those lines. There was never any acts of violence. There was an argument between us in which I was locked outside, which is what happened a lot. You know, I'm not going to get too much into it, but the DV was the other way around. So yeah, I get locked out and I want my stuff. I'm like, not even getting my shit. They're telling me to fuck off. I'm like, sure, fine. Let's give me my stuff. And I decided, well, fuck, I'll call the police. And I call the police and they turn up in like 2 seconds. And basically after that, I have warrants again, right? Other warrants, whatever. I'm pretty sure this was recent stuff, so I should know about this stuff a bit better. And then they were like, "Oh yeah, put a restraining order on them," which I guess is standard, but I also a little bit extreme. So sure, I get hit with that, and they put a detention application in for me, and then they hit me with the still from persons, and here we are here, still from persons, and yeah, the contravene, right? So now I ordered a pizza, and what happened, which was a simple misunderstanding, right? Which was that I had an arrangement with the manager to get a discount on the pizza. When the driver came up, he pressed me and he took the majority of the money. And then once I started handing him somewhat coins to finalize the deal, he started saying that no, I owed him more money and that it should have been in notes, and that he got really pissed off. And then he tried to snatch the pizzas out of my hand, and then I put the pizzas down, and he kind of like walked away somewhat like aggressive, but then he went to the police and said that I pushed him, and which was realistically like a civil misunderstanding, which could have been resolved with paying the outstanding of the pizza. They hit me with steal from persons. Like, that's like one under robbery. That's so extreme, right? There are so many other charges that could have been done from that. And then that was in 2019, right? So I got hit with that, and they tried to say fail to appear. I did a month, right? Now, the steal from persons and here we go. So now what happened was, before they hit me with this steal from persons charge, which mind you should have just been a civil dispute in which that I worst case had paid the outstanding of the pizza, because the driver was racist and lied, and the police went 1 to 1,000 and framed me, as they've been doing all of these years, I assume because I've been a menace to the state, right? Or something around those lines. My younger brother, we'll talk about him later, but he ended up getting far worse because I guess he might not have been as resilient as myself. Eventually they tried to hit me with a fail to appear because went to the Downing Center, right? Because they filed a detention application and arrested me out the front of Liverpool Court, right? On the day that I had a hearing, right? Mind you, framed me with a bunch of charges, saying that I contacted protected persons, which I didn't. I contacted their mother. Their mother wasn't on the AVO, right? We'll make that pretty clear. Then they tried to hit me with all of these stalks, all of this still from persons, which had come from completely different courts, mind you, in courts in areas that I didn't even live in, right? Because they couldn't contact me for whatever reason. They can contact anyone, whoever they want, right? Like the police have got a database, they get directly every single person's number, right? So they're all full of shit. They're just banking them up and waiting for a time to strike, right? So they arrested me out the front of Liverpool Court on the day that I was going for a hearing, because I still to this day, I believed in honesty and truthfulness and doing the right thing and all of this stuff, right? All of these things that had been so true to my soul, right? For my entire life. Sure, I do a little bit of stealing and that, a little bit of shiftiness and a little bit of misinfluence, but you got to have a code of morals that you live by. What kind of person are you? You know what I mean? Like there are pedophiles that are getting lenient, lesser sentences out there, doing far worse and getting next to nothing, and people doing people of other roles and backgrounds doing far worse, getting much worse of a crime. So yeah, they arrested me out the front of court at Liverpool in 2019, and they said that I breached the order because I contacted my ex-partner's mother by trying to have a civil mediation. There was never anything on the order about contacting their mother, and I had been in contact with their mother the entire time. Yeah, so they hit me with the stalk. They hit me with because I sent the record to her mother. I didn't know I couldn't do this, right? I didn't know I couldn't, like the police and the courts give you paperwork. I didn't know you couldn't do this. Sure, I knew you couldn't like record in the courtroom, but they don't give you like a big yellow form saying, warning, do not give people this documents. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, I shared the property, and then I got into a car accident. Mind you, I scraped a car and the panel fell off. I put the panel back on. It barely looked damaged at all. But I put a piece of paper with nothing on it and drove away. And they interviewed me and they said, did you do it? And I said, no. And they gave me improperly give, or this is the other one. Yeah. Give possess, record a statement, because I gave the recording and I was telling her mother about how the police are pressing her and how they've chopped it up and edited the videos, and look how this makes her sound as a mother. This is fucked up. And then, because I emailed it, they said I improperly published it. And then, so mind you, they arrested me out the front of court with all of this stuff during another completely separate hearing, right? Completely different hearing. And then, yeah, I got put on an ICO order for 12 months, which is called an intensive correction order. And again, same scenario. I ended up having nowhere to live because I got arrested out the front of the courthouse. They knew where I lived. They could have come directly to my house, but they arrested me out the front, directly out front of court in Liverpool. And, bail, they threw me up on my own solicitor, Michael Musa. He's terrible lawyer, threw me up on the stand in my own bail hearing, destroyed my bail application in partnership with the police, like they do. You can't help, they've got more money. And I got bail refused, and then again, I'm forced to have to plead guilty to all of these charges because I now have nowhere to live because I've been in jail for 3.5 months, and you live in rental. It doesn't work that way. Unfortunately, you got to still pay the rent, or they throw you shit out the front. It is what it is. All right. With every rental agency, they've only got 3 weeks or something by the law to look after your stuff. After that, they can throw it away. So yeah, they arrested me out the front of that court. Now, mind you, this following make false statement happened ages ago, like fucking 2017 or something. Or something around that line. It's like late 2018 or something, right? And so yeah, I got given an ICO for 12 months. So mind you, this was just before COVID, right? Kind of before COVID. And so when I was in jail at this time, jail was a terrible place. Like Parklea jail was horrible. Like there was people getting poked left, right, and center. There was weapons everywhere. There was UGG drays everywhere. The guards just didn't care. There was a fight every day. People would go work in the metal yard, come back with just brand new ones. There was like no education. The people within the jail were the other inmates. They were like taking the televisions and hoarding them in their cell and making people pay $10 a week for them. And I watched this big Islander guy who's like, I swear, 8 foot tall, pick up this little 5-foot Australian guy and slam him on his head, and you hear this big pop sound. And then they dragged him into a cell, and they beat him with a Breville maker, and there was blood everywhere. And the guards, they didn't even care. They just slowly walked in. I saw people stabbing each other over poking each other over $5. It was really bad. Like, in American system, they put high offending criminals and low offending criminals into several different categories. They don't put them together, right? And even those who, of certain religious stature and stuff like this, they should be in their own stuff, right? But they didn't. They put people in to create conflict for entertainment. And it wasn't great. It wasn't a great experience. It ended up being really big riots. It was really badly, full on, super traumatizing. I ended up having beef with somebody in there. And then when they moved me to another pod, I guess they must have found my address or something in there. Ended up having some continued beef from that on the outside. They came to, at the time I was living in a place in Carlingford. I had just started my ICO at this time. So mind you, I'd just only been released from custody for a couple of weeks. I come home one day and 3 blokes run across the street, and they were like, Taylor, because that's what they try to call me in jail. And I hopped over the fence and yeah, I didn't put up with that shit. So yeah, didn't look friendly. And that was good times, I guess. So, and ended up leaving. And then, so after I've gotten the ICO, they've turned around and they're like, oh, now maybe we might be able to slip the paperwork in and see if we can breach his 12-month order with something which realistically is just a small misunderstanding where that person could have just called me and I could have just paid them $150 to fix their car. But yeah, because I obviously panicked and blew somewhat things out of proportion, they decided to just charge me with it anyway, mind you, years something later. With a knowingly make a false statement. Sure, I lied to police about the car accident in some particulars, but only because they harassed me every 10 fucking seconds for the last 10 years. Right? Of course, I'm starting now to lose trust. Right? I'm starting now not to take them seriously. Of course, I'm not going to take them seriously. For years, I've watched them destroy families and destroy lives. And now that social media exists, you see that they fuck kids and that the judges are corrupt and all of these things that just get worse and worse out of hand. And because I was decided that when I was a kid, to be honest about the horrible things that I saw at that youth refuge. But don't worry, it gets worse. We've got a little bit of an in-between gap as well, where I went to Melbourne for a couple of years and then Tasmania. And I think there's one page of Tasmania, a couple of pages of Victoria, and one page of WA. So yeah, they tried to breach my order. And then when they hit me with the falsely, knowingly misstatement, I fucked off, basically. I disappeared. I just said, nah, this is enough again. I'm sick of this. I'm had enough. COVID's coming. My boss is being freaking racist. I no longer am able to handle 2 jobs. I'm stressed out about it. It's not looking good. I'm thinking the world's going to end because it's starting to close the borders and that. No. When I got out of jail, the car company said they could fix my car. They fixed it. It broke down a couple of days later. I assume the police damaged it, not once, but twice. And they also damaged my ex-partner's car. I assume because they didn't want me to escape because they love taking the piss. So yeah, I took the car in. A day later, it got busted. I had a 2002 VRX Magna. It was a very nice car. Loved it. It broke down. I took it in. I got arrested out the front of court. I had to use that day when they arrested me out the front of court. That car place gave me a loan car, and I used my only phone call to call that place to tell them where the car was and how to come and pick up the key. And that guy had the decency to continue to try to fuck me when he fucked my car, right? We're far in the video now. I'm pretty sure I can swear. But yeah, I got in the car. I just said, no, I've had enough. I'm sick of being harassed. Things were better when I didn't live in this state. Every time I've left this state, it's been great. Why not just continue that pattern? So I'd gone and I'd done so and I'd left. Mind you, again, so there's just this gap, right? Like, what did they take out something and forget to press the backspace? Or like, what's the go with this, right? Like, that's the thing that puzzles me a little bit when I'm reviewing it. But anyway, eventually it goes back to the Downing Center. And mind you, yeah, so I committed this one in 2019. The Still from Persons around like 2018. And then they, yeah, bail conditioned me in my absence. And then decided in 2020, I had not even been in the state, right? I had not even been in the state to hit me with an AOBH. Now, from what I got told, they wanted to hit me with an OBH at start, which is an actual bodily harm, which is one under attempted murder, and force me to plead guilty to an ABH so I could probably, I don't know, go to custody and they kill me or something. Like, seems like they've tried to do several other times, to be honest. I'm not going to lie. And like, I'm not even in the state at this time. Now, when I was in court for this matter, the bloke said that I hit him with my left hand and cut his right ear. Like, how is that even possible? The guy hit me first. I hit him back. He ducked off to the side. He cut his ear with a razor blade. And it was all staged. That's my honest theory, my honest proof of that. And then they decided to years later bring it up, right? I'm not even in the state at this time, mind you. So at this time, around 2020, we'll have to simulate some things. We'll have to, let me just check another date here and the other one, because it assimilates to what happened when I was in Victoria. This is Western Australia. Here is Victoria. Yep. Now, Victoria is a completely different thing. All right. 2009. Hang on. Doesn't have the time in here that I went to custody, that racist. So they're just, again, trying to protect themselves. Let me just do a quick more research, because the dates here have to be a little figured out. All right. So in 2020 odd, we're gonna get into the trip that I had later at the end. So I left New South Wales in early 2019. We've talked about how they kept harassing me. I left. So I was not in the country state for this, and I'd left. So I went to South Australia first, and at first the corrections, they fricked me because I told them, this is what happened. I'm going to South Australia. I have a better life here. I have accommodation right now. Everything's good. I'm fine right now. I can probably have a job in a couple of weeks. And then a week later, COVID happened. Apparently, they suspended a lot of people's orders. My order was only for like 6 more months or something, but they didn't want to hear it, right? Anyway, I keep that neutral for now, because that bloke, I haven't seen him again. I'm assuming he's just doing his job. But they ended up fricking with me a little bit later, trying to use it as an excuse, so I didn't get out of custody again. So they hit me with this in 2020. Now, in Victoria, long story short, we'll get into it. A taxi driver attacked me. I hit him back. I had my cousin's kid with me. My cousin was in KFC, and we'd come out. We'd asked to use the taxi, because in Melbourne, you've got to use a taxi at the front. You can't get the taxi behind, and that doesn't work that way in Elizabeth Street back then. So anyway, long story short, The guy spits on me. He gets out of the car. He attacks me. And he started swinging at me. There was a video of it. There was a video of it. I had a copy of it at that time, so the police probably didn't want to bring that up. They probably had it in the little box that they had. They probably frisbeed it. But anyway, we will talk about that later. But then after that happened, I fricked off out of Victoria. Anyway, when I went back, I assumed this was the only thing that I had left on my to-do list. I almost died in Darwin, Western Australia. It was full on. We'll get into that a little later. It was full on, but yes, I almost died. And then after that, I wanted to close off all books. I wanted to start fresh and do the right thing. I don't know if it was God or aliens or whatever, but I'm still trying my best to become better, do better, right? And so anyway, I went back to Melbourne. I tied off some loose ends, and then I handed myself into the police because that was outstanding. The legal aid there tried to frick me. They tried to make me end up doing longer on remand than I would on a sentence, and he vocalized that in court. I interrupted him and said, nah, look, again, like, I'm done with this. I'm done with this. I want to represent myself. And change my plea. I'm done with this. Long story short, 3 more terrible lawyers later that don't listen because obviously they just want to stamp the form so they can get all that government money that they can. Mind you, some of the worst lawyers I've ever seen my entire life come out of legal aid. It's like 9 out of 10 of them are fucking terrible. Anyway, I ended up doing 2 weeks in jail for that. 2 months in jail for that. I had a month left by the time that I was sentenced. Mind you, they threw me around that jail in some of the most sketchy, unsafe environments that you could ever imagine intentionally. And when then shit hit the fan, they were like, oh yeah, we'll put a thing on. They would open your cell anyway. They didn't give a fuck, man. Anyway, I was in Port Phillip down there, which is a really tough jail, really fucked up jail. And the GEO prison, they can go fuck themselves. Good for nothing pedophile protectors in there. Anyway, so as I said, I'd left in 2019. I'd handed myself down there in Melbourne. Now, breaching an ICO is an extraditable offense. If you leave the jurisdiction of the state that you're assigned to another state and you get pulled over driving, they beep, 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 beep pops up, right? It's a federal thing. They don't fuck around. They'll fly you back. They don't give a fuck, right? They don't mess around at all. And so I managed to be able to drive around the entire country, right, with my same car that was in an investigation for this ABH, right? And I was able to drive around the entire country and go to jail and not face any extradition at all until, again, my life is at its peak again. I'm living in Northern Territory. I'd gotten out of jail now. I have a really nice house. I have a really nice job. I just bought myself a really nice car and I had a really good landlord and things were going good. And then boom, it all just pops up again. Right. So I get extradited, mind you, in 2024. I don't know if that's there. There you go. 2024. I think something like that. 2023? Yeah, 2023. Yeah, 2023 I get sentenced again. So I just pled guilty to everything except the ABH because it was a separate charge and I wanted to save them a fuck around and get out on the earliest possible opportunity. Like I'd planned this for years on the possibility of this happening. I was like 100 steps ahead. I ended up being able to get bail. When they read my bail condition, when they went to read my bail, the entire room had filled up with more people than I could ever have imagined. It was crazy. It's so crazy. Local courts do not have that much people just walk in one time. All right. Anyway, I ended up getting my ICO back. So that one that I said before that I had, I got that back, right? So all of these charges are for the same ICO, right? That was original. So this is basically from here, these last 3 pages, it's basically a reset, right? So yeah, they got me with the stalk, intimidation, and harassment are the same thing. If you prank your neighbor and you call him and he says, don't call me, and you call him back, it's technically a criminal offense, right? But I did not speak to my ex-partner. I spoke to her mother, and then the police found out that I guess I was speaking to her mother, and they did me hard by because there was no explicit instruction. There had to be some contact for the look. Anyway, I was doing the right thing, contacting lawyers, doing what I was told, going through the correct channels, speaking to the right people. They arrested me out the front of court on completely different things. When I started winning court cases, and likely bribed a judge or bribed a prosecution and the magistrate, or bribed my lawyer, they played tomfoolery. Anyway, so I end up getting extradited last year, August. Something like that, from Northern Territory. For like all of these things. Yeah, the same stuff, like as I said, like the same things. Let me go back. I don't want skepticism. So yeah. So again, big gap, right? Like what's with these gaps, right? Like what, for the information? Oh yeah. Anyway, same things, right? Stalk, double jeopardy, double jeopardy, double jeopardy, double jeopardy, double jeopardy, double jeopardy. See another one? Look, double jeopardy. And then they issued the warrant in 2007. Fucking 5 years later, right? 2 years later. And sure, the AVO ended, and I sent my ex-girlfriend a message that basically said that I'm done and I'm on good terms and it's over. And then I got really drunk and I handed myself into the police. And I didn't make any toxicity in that. They just used it as an excuse because the police probably fucking threatened to rape her or her kids or something. Anyway. Yes. And then eventually end a report, right? So yeah, I went to the Downing Center in 2007. There you go. And I was, they issued all of those warrants again. They extradited me from Northern Territory, just out of the blue for no reason, right? As I expressed. And yeah, I pled guilty to everything. I got given an ICO. I finished that ICO. And then yeah, as I said, like that guy, he hit me first. I hit him back. And yeah, he probably cut his ear with a razor blade or something. And he even said in the, when he was on the witness stand, that I hit him with my left hand and I cut his right ear. Like, how's that possible? I've been fighting my entire life. I hit him with a clean right to his lower jaw here, right? Sure, I might have punched his ear, and sure, I saw blood coming out of his ear and I freaked out a little bit, but I didn't just kick him when he was down or take off or freak out. No, everyone there was fucking with me. The police coerce the witnesses. The police lie, they steal, and they took away my honesty. And from all of that, what I want to say is, before we go into Victoria and the other stuff, is that you know, truthfulness and honesty, it gets you nowhere in life. People don't respect it. They don't care for it. It gets you nothing. Your family will never be honest with you. You know, they've been lying to you since you were a kid about Santa being real. You know, the parents only want what's they want for you. And you know, society lies to you, police lie to you, government lies to you, everyone lies to you, and they don't respect honesty. They don't care for it. They don't respect it, and they don't want it. So I moved to Tasmania 3 days before my 18th birthday. And I went to Melbourne for about 2 months when I was 17 years old. And then I went to Tasmania. I lived with my nan for a little bit. Yeah, so we'll start with Tasmania, I guess. So I lived in in Tasmania for a little bit, and I lived with my nan. And the police just one day just start harassing me, just in the street in Burnie, in Victoria, in Tasmania, in Burnie, just harassing me, and I'm doing nothing wrong. Sure, I'd probably stolen a couple of steaks or whatever from the Woolies and that, but like I wasn't running around doing crime or nothing. I was just living with my nan, and going to church and living with my nan, and so yeah, one day they turn up at the house. When I wasn't there, my nan said the police were here, so I said, "Oh, cool." Well, she said, "Oh, we'll give him a call." So yeah, I gave him a call, and I was speaking to somebody, and then next thing you know, the banging at the door was like literally 10 minutes of being on the phone with them, trying to ask them what they want me to come down there for. They were being rude and cryptic. Anyway, they turn up, and I saw it coming, so I put the recycling bin next to the door so I could hoop. And I hopped into the recycling bin and I hid in the bin, and the police looked around, they searched for me. They didn't find me, they left. I spoke to my nan, I gave her a hug and a kiss, and I told her and I loved her. I went to the police station, I handed myself in. They asked me a bunch of random questions, but just let me go, right? They're trying to say I like beat up some fucking dude in town or something, which is like super bizarre, right? Like I was going to church with my nan doing good. Sure, I had a rat tail and I'd wear polo shirts and that, but I wasn't like a menace. I've never been like a menace, like I wasn't running around doing graffiti and that. I just stole from shops or whatever and closed down probably millions of dollars worth of youth support infrastructure or something, and they blame me for it. So yeah, eventually they hit me with it. But the funny thing is like I was using the name Davidson because Davidson was on my birth certificate. So when I went in at the age of 17 years old in New South Wales to get my photo card, right, I went in and got a proof of ID card. They had to use Davidson on it. So I had been started then from the age of 17 before I left New South Wales. I was using Davidson on it, right? Now the reason I was using Davidson and the 100% Davidson from them. So Davidson was my only name, right? But yeah, they hit me with this name Taylor, which wouldn't have been known realistically, but they hit me with the Taylor alias Davidson. Like, no, like my name's Davidson. Anyway, they tried to say common assault again, but dismissed. No evidence, right? So yeah, and then failed to appear, no evidence. So this is when I feel that like the magistrate, he had a look at this and he said, "What the? Do not bring this to my state," right? This is honest truth, and he dismissed it. And then whoever the political group is, or whoever it is, the minority group or the people group that have been fucking with me for the last 20 years, then they turned that town to shit. Burnie now is an absolute fucking shithole. There's only the one church that my nan and myself used to go to is the only one getting vandalized. There is it's terrible youth crime, terrible drug crime. It's all targeted, like they're going, here's your weekly fuck everything up pay. The town's full fucked. I went back there on my travels around the world. We'll get to that soon. But yeah. So anyway, yeah, as you said, dismissed, right? End of record, Tasmania. Does it say Tasmania? There you go, Tasmania, right? Anyway, dismissed, and now that town turned to shit. I'm telling you, Burnie used to be really nice, beautiful, retirement, rich people on the beach, and now it's fucking needles in the sand, ghetto, putrid. And the really hard thing about that is there's fuck all Department of Housing in that area, right? Fuck all Department of Housing in that area. But do you know how they did it? They put these fucking little rooms in the Salvation Army and these other places, right, where they put like fucking 20 beds in them. They put all the junkies in there, and then the ice heads and the junkies sell to them, and then they just live in the town because it takes a fucking hour and a half to get the bus to the town, right? Anyway, that's that truth. I guess whoever that judge was, love ya. Thank you very much for seeing some truthfulness in me. And believing in me and taking my phone call and hearing what I had to say. I appreciate you that day. I love you and appreciate you. Thank you very much. Anyway, now we're on to Victoria. Is this Victoria? This is Western Australia. All right. So, long story short, we already talked about this. I left. I had some dramas. I left New South Wales 2019 before COVID. I went to South Australia first. I lived there for a little bit. I had a stable accommodation. I had somewhat of a job, but then when I started the job, COVID started to kick in. I just wasn't feeling like starting to not feel like getting up in the morning, getting dressed and putting on a suit and doing my hair and shaving my entire face. I used to have this big mole on my face. And if I drank the night before or took Panadol the night before or that day and I had a shave and I nipped it, it would fucking piss blood for hours. It had interrupted, it destroyed my entire life. Having that, especially when the Molly came out with Ace Friend, Austin Powers. Anyway, I got it removed. It's not relevant realistically, but it is gone. So anyway, I drove to South Australia. I lived there for like 8-9 months. And COVID started getting bad. It started getting full on. And then I left South Australia. I drove to WA. Sketchy drive, boring drive, straight line, never ending bite. It was nice. Anyway, I got to Perth just before they shut the borders. I was allowed in. And I get in there and I just decided to travel WA, going from town to town, living in my car sometimes, just kind of exploring it. And then eventually I fucking decided that it's not the place for me. Maybe not this particular town. I really like the traditionalized culturalism and the independence. And I think WA is one of the best states. Like police don't have the ability to like come into your house and like separate a family unless there's like a crime. Right? Like unlike New South Wales and Victoria and maybe any other states that do that, right? So the families, sure, they might be ice heads and scream at each other in the street at 2:00 in the morning, but the families live in like a peaceful harmony, like a weird kind of harmony. And education seems a lot better, and housing seems a lot nicer, and the shops were like readily somewhat available. So I left, ended up having some shit go down. I said, fuck this. I'm going to Darwin. So I left Perth with a head full of acid. I decided to head north to Darwin on an adventure of a lifetime. I called it my rite of passage. And I went on an adventure and I decided to steal petrol the entire way. I stole petrol all the way from Perth, all the way to Fitzroy Crossing. I stole petrol for 2,370 kilometers, blasting Russian hard bass and K-pop music, and having a blast of a lifetime. But I did it like this, though. I went all the way around kind of the coast. Anyway, I got to Fitzroy Crossing and I knew something was in the air. Long story short, I felt it in the air, like something touched me and let me know. It's strange. I feel like it's been happening all my life. It's quite strange. But anyway, so I put the car in a 90-degree angle, which is like seat in the 90-degree. Like this, right? Because if you roll the car, you don't want to break your neck, right? Crumple effect and that. So I left from Fitzroy Crossing, and next thing you know, I'm getting in a fucking 6-hour action movie car chase, like Wolf Creek type shit, real, on God, real. Eventually, look, without the details, long story short, I rolled 8 times at 160 kilometers an hour, nothing but a scratch. I kicked the windscreen out. Got out, I went up to the car and I said, fucking call somebody or give me a lift. And I was full pissed. And I knew he had a gun like this, right? He called an ambulance. I almost got hit by a car. But things were good. The ambulance got there relatively quick. It was all staged. Then I'm like likely concussed and the hospital are telling me to lay down. And the police get there and they're trying to tell me to lay down. I'm like, lay down? I might be concussed, brother. I just fucking rolled 8 times, nothing but a scratch. The ambulance wouldn't even give me a bottle of water at Halls Creek. So short. They don't hold me down, restrain me, nothing. I wasn't being aggressive, nothing. I grabbed my little blankie that I grabbed, and my bags, which my laptop in it, and a few things. And I went to Halls Creek and I walked around the town and explored it and got enriched a little bit somewhat in the experience there. It was a nice town. No one pressed me except a couple little kids come up and asked if I had any weed, but I didn't, obviously. And yeah, I slept there the night at the airport. Airport bloke, fucking legend. I love that guy. And yeah, the police, when I left the hospital, they're just like, I'm like, can you fucking call a cab for me? They're like, there's no cabs around here, bruh. And well, like, there's like no cabs around here, mate. And I was like, bus? Because where am I going? And like at that time, like as well, luckily for Centrelink, I went in and I explained my situation. They were able to pay the bus for me. You know, the fucked up thing as well, I can't even do that anymore because some lady put some block on my profile that I can't go into the office now and use the phone. If I want to speak to someone on Centrelink, I got to call a direct number and speak to them. And because of that now, I could end up homeless. Like there have been a lot of times throughout my life. I've been on Centrelink now 10 years. Almost 20 years. And with that, on God, there have been times where I'm like homeless and I go in there and I'm like, hey, look, I need 1 week rent and I can present this to my landlord next week. I can pay the rent and I can give him, 2 weeks rent and 1 week's bond. And then the next fortnight, give him the rest and I'll get food stamps and that, whatever, right? I can't do that now. But yeah, anyway, wait, what? Hang on a second. Okay, maybe WA are going to hold on to this charge, but I'm not going to lie about it. Western Australia police, they pulled me over. And they pulled me over outside of Broome. And they found acid in my car. Okay, they found one strip of acid. It was for the remainder of the trip. And for some reason, I didn't... this is the first time I've also looked at this paperwork, by the way. They got me with disorderly conduct in public. I guess that's all like the documents they're going to write down from having a car accident, almost dying, taking acid, getting caught with acid, all that stuff. I guess I appreciate it. They didn't charge me for theft of petrol, nothing like that. So even though there is some corruption in there, again, a lot of respect to the WA police. They got a lot that they deal with, and I know that they put up with a lot of shit that Northern Territory and South Australia create and do. But a lot of respect again for the Tasmanian legal system, the court system there. Sorry for Bernie for having these motherfuckers fuck you up this way and fuck your town. I apologize. Respect out to WA for not doing me a hard one, I guess there. But who knows? I might turn up one day and they go, you've got a warrant now, like they've done many, many years with everything else, right? So anyway, that's that one. Yeah, that's WA that one time. And they decided to call me Davidson. And mind you, this was in September 2020. So this was before I handed myself in to Victoria. So mind you, I'd been pulled over by the police and charged by police, and there'd just been no acknowledgement of these other warrants or these extraditional orders or this breach of ICO or nothing, right? Like they would have pulled it up. You know what I mean? Like, do you think police out there in the countries in the middle of nowhere and Halls Creek and Burnie and Halls Creek and Broome and all of that have got nothing better to do? You know what I mean? They had all the opportunity there. They had all the opportunity in South Australia. Anyway, I mean, WA. I mean, yeah, Victoria. Anyway, here's my Victorian one. Victoria was a little wild. I'm not going to lie. I loved Melbourne at that time. It was a great state, I think. Until, honestly, 2012 and that. That's when, like, the businesses started getting terror threats and all that stuff. But anyway, so, yeah, I didn't notice this, but I remember Justin, John Warner. Yeah, they got me here. Linton Taylor. Anyway, look, I started mixing it up a little bit so I didn't forget. Look. So it's just, like, I'm not trying to be funny about it, but, like, look, it's good to have a laugh at misfortunes, all right? So, all right, what happened was, We would hang at Flinders Stairs, and the police were just mad racist. They can't stop terrorism or knife crime, but damn sure can they destroy the lives of children. Anyway, what would happen, like, if there was like a kid who was like 14 or 15 just chilling at the stairs and they really wanted to, the street works would just get the police to park on the corner, and they would literally run and kidnap these children, like, on God, and lock them up in like houses that were turned into like makeshift prisons. But anyway, let me just have a quick look at here. Yep, actually, yep, cool. All right, we're up to date. All right, so what happened was I used to like going clubbing, and I went to a club, and at this time, I think I'm like 19. 18, 19. It was a club called Christmas Candy. It used to be at Billboards. The owner was a fuckwit. You still are. And the staff were fuckwits. They still are. And this bloke, he got me kicked out on Christmas Day. Like, that's messed up, bro. Messed in the head type shit. I saw him at Flinders Stairs. He shoved me and like grabbed my shirt, pulled it, and ripped it. Fucking homeless, man. I don't want to get caught stealing a t-shirt at QV. My shirt's now ripped, so I punched the guy, and blood came out of his nose. And so yeah, they locked me up. They locked me up in a place called Malmesbury. And I had to serve. One second. All right. Man, they do this on purpose, man. They make it so this is actually quite sad. So during my entire time in Victoria, from the ages of 17 to 21, I was homeless. Right? Sure, I went to Tasmania for 5 months, something like that, but I was homeless the entire time. Um I had a unit for a little bit, but Department of DHS, they don't respect you very much. They don't care too much. So anyway, yeah, that was the one with I busted his nose, Cade. He turned around, he went straight to the police booth there at Flinders Station, snitched on me. I was instantly arrested. I served 2 months in the custody. Um, but like I hit the guy once, and they hit me with like 10 charges anyway. Yeah, I pled guilty. I did time in juvie, but it's like an for adults, like under 21. And I trained hard. I got fit. I signed up to attempt to join the defense force, but made it very hard being homeless. Anyway, I steal a lot, sure, but that could have just been go back and pay for it. That could have been go back and pay for it. I'm a local within the community. They know where I am. They know who I am. They know my name. That didn't have to be a criminal offense. Um, anyway, it was like, yeah, $84.40 there. It would have been groceries or something. Anyway, I got caught possessing mushrooms. I fucking went out one night. I tried to get the train home. I fell asleep. I woke up in Lilydale. They searched my pocket. They found mushrooms. I was pulled passed out. Um, yeah, this one as well. This was like, I don't remember, to be honest, what it was, but it was something around the lines of like a fake. It was like a My Key card or something. It was like a My Key card or something like that didn't belong to me, or something ridiculous like that, or a library card or something. Because we'd go up to the fucking library up the other side of QV. And then, yeah, they hit me with the obtained property by deception and the stolen goods. It was something like that. It was like a My Key card that didn't belong to me, or a fucking library card or something around those lines. Or it was like a gift card or something. I remember being so blasted out of my mind. Um, but yeah, so this was when this is when I was placed into custody. So I did 2 months in jail for self-defense for an Indian guy beating me up, and they paid that guy $5,000 in crime compensation. Yeah, that was when I served the time. So I went over Christmas. I got my beautiful Salvo socks. You know who's probably been doing this to me all along? Salvation Army. That's what I think. Anyway, yeah, possessed psilocybin. Now we go back to 2010. Handling stolen goods, all of this stuff, the obtained by deception, um, the false name of drug dependence, with the mushroom thing. Um, I appealed it, um, and they gave me a 6-month youth training center that I did 3 months in. So now I'm starting to learn, right? This is in 2010. So now I'm starting to ask questions and I'm starting to learn a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I'm starting to fight back a little bit, you know, like I'm starting to ask more questions and evolve a little bit. Um, but then, um, there was a breach, and that ended up being, you know, anyway, all involved, a fail to answer, the same thing, another double jeopardy charge. Um, yeah, false statement, same thing, reckless cause injury, same thing. So these are the same charges. And then here is the unlawful assault. Um, okay. Yep, I remember. Okay. So this one here, was the same original charge for the taxi driver. And this one here is I got pulled over out the front of a club, and I had one pill in my pocket. And yeah, this is the same thing from before that we talked about, the card or whatever. Um, so when you're on bail, right, they recharge you for everything, but they can just, if they slip more in there, it's obviously going to look bad later on, right? We've established that, establish how they ruin people's lives. Anyway, I was to do community service and all of that, and 12 months order and all of this. When they gave me when they caught me with the tablet, I gave them a false name and they believed it, and they took my fingerprints. It came back later, so they added this to the folder. But this is what you're supposed to get with a caution. You're supposed to undergo fucking treatment and all this and get assessed. Um, but yeah, good times. So yeah, did the treatment and that, and they withdrew it, right? They withdrew it, but for some reason it's still on here. And then I stole from a shop. I was fined, right? That's what it should have been. But it's never been like that any other time, right? So now, like, I'm starting to get a bit of fair justice a little bit, right? It's not, if we see a pattern here, it seems to be New South Wales and New South Wales influence, right? Anyway, the very last thing on the list here was I walked out of the shop with a bag full of food and got caught. That was the main thing. Main thing, stealing food. I was also caught begging for money. And then they charged me with proceeds of crime because I had the money in my pocket, all these coins that I got from begging money. When I lived in New South Wales, I used to do window washing. We would like walk up and like wash the windows, but we had a strategy. I'm not going to get into it too much, but the strategy is to come up on the side, not go around the first car, but come through the middle and go up the middle and just start washing people's cars. They look at you and they see that you're a kid and they feel bad for you. So anyway, that's it. So after, basically what happened with this, as I said, it's a Tasmanian one again. Same thing. Dismissed, right? See, and anyway, so as I said, what happened was the taxi driver got out of his car in Melbourne. He attacked me. I fought back. Just 1-2. It wasn't bad. He said I broke his phone and I broke his glasses. He said all this bullshit. He would have gotten a $5,000 payout from the government. And then after that, I left. I came back to New South Wales, and by that time I was 21. And I had that warrant from when I was a kid. The second they found me in New South Wales, they insta locked me up, and they brought up a bunch of shit. They do it every single time I come back. There's plenty of evidence here to state that. But as I said, like, I'm a criminal, right? I'm a convicted criminal. No crimes against women or children, obviously, and 98% of all of this is wrong. Like 98% of all of this is horrible that they do this to people. And as I said, to summarize it, I think it's because that when I was originally placed into care, I saw tons of horrible things. And when they pulled me aside and they asked me about the truth, I told them the truth. And then ever since, I've been on the arse of punishment. Like, they locked me up in juvie and they infected me with like impetigo and other bacterial infections, and locked me up in isolation for 12 hours, 24 hours with no mattress during the day with soggy egg sandwiches. And my younger brother, Bryn, he got the arse end of it. He got framed with a bunch of crimes and they locked him up for 14 years. Like, it was a reoccurring pattern at home, you know. My older sister then wasn't valuable to my birth mother because she wasn't going to get settling payments anymore. So she gave her away. Then it came my turn, and then they gave me away. And Wyoming Public School wanted nothing to do with me. And Erina High School wanted nothing to do with me. And Bradfield Senior College wanted nothing to do with me. And the government wanted nothing to do with me. New South Wales wanted nothing to do with me. They might have tried for a little bit, but back in that day, people could lie and say whatever they wanted, and there was no reviews. There was no legal systems flawed because the only way we can get to the bottom of anything is because everyone is secretly recording, or, you know, stuff like that. Like, there wasn't those things, right? Like, the legal system in this country is in this old hug to traditional bullshit where AI and all of these things can be manipulated and frauded. And New South Wales is a terrible place to live. It's a terrible state. The horrible things they do to people, and the reason why this still happens today, you might ask. Well, 4 years ago, I started a lawsuit against the state of New South Wales and Department of Community Services and Human Services, and because of the atrocities that I'd seen have been, you know, extremely horrific to experience. And I believe and have proven that they ruined my life. And if I was given the same rights and freedom and fair go as everybody else, I would have been a millionaire by now. You know, if I was put into school and given the same opportunities and not misled those few little times and those few little mistakes that I made that turned into 12 pages, the constant being forced to be here and the shit that I deal with from them, the horrible things that they've done to me every time I come to this New South Wales state. It's horrible, and I proved it. I was able to prove it, and they said, we will give you $100,000, but they're using all of these loopholes to get out of it. And they're like, well, we'll give you 29,000 out of it. And all of the lawyers have been like coerced to not help me, and it's very difficult to find lawyers that are willing to help me. But end of the day, I sued them. I won. I got approved for $100,000, but the state government isn't going to do it. They're trying to not pay it out by any means necessary, and I don't want to get into that too much, but I did win, 100% of a win. And I wanted to use that to buy a house in another state and live there and try and have a life that I never got. And I don't know if I'm sick. I don't know if I'm healthy. I don't know if I'm dying. I don't know all of that. I can't afford to see a doctor if I really wanted to. I can't afford to see a specialist. Not in this state anyway. I don't trust half the doctors in majority of the hospitals here because, they're run by Catholics. But yeah, there's fair evidence of constant proof of all of this, and the way that I've tried my best to explain it. And I wanted to go over it all and just express it all and just tell my truth before one day it might come out. And I highly doubt this video is going to have that much traction. But one day it'll come out and it's all here and explained. And I did it live, and I did it my best that I can in one take, and tried to explain it the best that I can. And I feel really bad that I do, for the Caleb, for hitting him. I feel bad every day when I think about it, because it was completely just, he was a cool guy. Like, he was a cool guy, and he was a good guy. And, unfortunately he ended up being involved in something that had nothing to do with him. And, that's a big problem that I've had in my life. And it always been about keeping my nose out of things that I didn't belong. And that's just because all the shit that I'd gone through my entire life and dealt with all my life, I'd have just always seen the good in the world and humanity and the beautifulness and for what it can be. And, my face, it tells a story, right? It tells a story of the pain and the anguish and the suffering that I've had to deal with. And I smile through it now, and I smile through it now the best that I can. Right. And, with the opportunities that I never got, and, as I said, like, I just wanted to make sure this is just out in the open there and just make sure it's done, because I love doing this. I love playing video games, and I love just chilling, and I just want to be able to make friends and try and get the opportunity that I never got, and maybe just get to experience the life, as a bit more of an adult child, and, things like that I never got an opportunity to do. And, like, it's unfortunate that the way that it is, but I just wanted to make sure that I tell my story, and I just want to make sure that it's all there and it's all 100%. And apart from that, it's all 100% true. It's all 100% truth. And all I've ever wanted to do is just have a fair go, like I believed for so long exists. And as I said, like, I just believed that honesty mattered. And all I've learned in this last year, as I said, is it means nothing, right? It means nothing to no one. Honesty and truthfulness, it matters to no one, and people don't respect it. They don't care for it. They don't want to hear it. So I'm going to stop the recording. I made a pizza. Look, hooray. I'm getting better at it. Anyway, I made a pizza. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload this to YouTube, and then I will come back when that is done. And then I'm going to go live. And the best advice I can give to people is that, never downplay your capabilities, right? Like, never deny yourself what you think you can achieve and what you think you can get to, because society and other people try not to make that happen, right? Like, there are people out there that are good in the crowd, right? There are good things about humanity that make it beautiful, and great things about society that make it worth living and being involved in and being a part of it. But, hopefully one day we all get to be able to do that the way that we want to. And the idea that we're believed to express with humanity, given with the free will that God gave to us, right? And, obviously there's rules and regulations and laws and stuff in life. But look, man, I lived my life knowing that what I lost in my opportunities was hopefully something valued to somebody else, and they got to be better off with what I miss out on. And I think about that as a good thing. And I think about how beautiful humanity is and what I aim for. And sure, it wasn't until I was 26 that I started to snap out of stuff. And it was the first time ever in my life I had more money than I knew what to deal with. And I got to see a glimpse of life that I wanted, and I started to aim for it. And sure, I'd always done some form of study to primarily get out of doing work for the dole so I can continue to receive my Centrelink payments for as long as I've ever remembered. And I guess you can say I'm kind of denying the opportunity to be involved, but I had plenty of opportunities to succeed. And it's not that I believe that I missed an opportunity. I just never got given any, right? I never got given a chance to thrive and grow and adapt and become. I never got a fair go that I believe that existed. I never got that chance. And, you know, I've been serving this life sentence for trying to do the right thing. That's my truth. And it's followed me, and it's been destructive everywhere it goes. And because of that, I just like to be isolated. And half the time, that's majority of the time why I like to be live all the time. And I wish I could be live even more than I am now, because I hope that maybe one day that with the way that technology is, that maybe sometime people will see the injustice that I've been getting my entire life, and they might speak up and go, hey, that's no good. But look, thank you for listening. I love yous and I appreciate yous. I'll be back.